You know, if we will love God and find our meaning in Him, we will really have an enjoyment of life that's impossible to get any other way. And the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible talks about that. Now, you and I both know if we went out on the street and started asking people, what do you really want out of life? So many of them say, I just want to be happy. And there's a verse in the Bible that talks about the deceitfulness of riches. It's deceitful to think, or it is really, we're deceived if we think that if we have stuff, things, that somehow or other we'll be happy. True happiness, true meaning from life comes because of our relationship with God. And there's a verse in Ecclesiastes that says that so beautifully, so powerfully. In fact, it's Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 25. And here's what it says. For without Him, without God, for without God, who can eat or find enjoyment? Who can enjoy life without God? What a beautiful verse, what a powerful verse to be found in the Scripture. And the book of Ecclesiastes is about life without and with God, and how life without God just lacks meaning, and life with God is rich with meaning. So let's go and take a look at Ecclesiastes and see the lesson that it's telling us, because what's going to happen in Ecclesiastes is the author, who in this case God is the author, Solomon is the writer, is going to write about trying to find meaning of life apart from God. Now he starts out by saying in verse 2, chapter 1, verse 2, meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless, everything is meaningless. This is translated different ways in different versions, but that's the essence of it. Everything is meaningless. Then we go, why is that? Why is everything meaningless? And he says, well, what can anybody gain from what they do? Because everything that is in life gets forgotten, dies off and gets forgotten. So this person in Ecclesiastes says, like us, I want to be happy. I want to find meaning in life. I'm going to look for what's going to give me meaning. And so he starts out in chapter 1, starting in verse 12, and he says, I devoted myself to study. Hey, that's a good place to start. You want to find meaning in life? You want to have meaning in life? Get smart, get wise, get knowledge. Boy, if we all had knowledge, wouldn't life be more meaningful? But here's what he concludes. Knowledge apart from God? Here's the conclusion. With much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. And it's amazing. Do you know any really smart, cynical people? They're really smart, they know so much, and yet what happens is they just look at how there's so much misery on the face of the earth. They see how hard it is to fix. They see no matter what you try to put in place, things kind of crash and burn. So he says, knowledge, wow, knowledge just isn't really going to do it. It isn't going to give me meaning in life. So he says in chapter 2, verse 1, come now, I'll test you with pleasure. Great idea. Want to be happy? I'm just going to go after fun. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to have fun. Anything that's fun, I'm going to do it. What does he say? After trying to just have fun apart from God for a while, he says that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is foolish, and what does pleasure accomplish? So you know what he does? He says, I'm just going to get some wine and I'm going to tie one on. I've seen some drunks. They look pretty happy-go-lucky. So he says, I tried cheering myself with wine. Did it do any good? Did it bring meaning to his life? No, it didn't. So he moved on. Verse 4, he says, I undertook great projects. I built houses. I planted vineyards. He lists all these things that he did. He becomes a workaholic. I know what I'll do. I'll just throw myself into my work. Apart from God, just working doesn't accomplish much. It just doesn't accomplish much. But of course, then it's like, well, and there are people that, well, if I just had money, I'd be happy. Now, we ought to know that's not true, because you and I both know there's plenty of wealthy people who aren't happy at all. But he's going to give it a try. So in verse 8, I amassed silver and gold for myself. So he gets a lot of money. Doesn't make him happy though. He adds entertainment. He says, I acquired men and women singers. Okay, you might have a big stereo system, giant screen TV, some kind of plasma thing, all the newest technology. Does it really make you happy? Does it really give you meaning in life? Sure, it may provide entertainment for a while, but that's the end of that. And of course, can't forget sex. So what's he say? I got a harem as well. So he just rounded up a bunch of women, put together a harem. Now he's got all the sex he wants. And what's he looking for? Happiness. Like so many people, he's looking for happiness. He's looking for meaning in life. And what's he tried now? He's tried wisdom. He's tried partying. He's tried getting drunk. He's tried being a workaholic and building. He's tried silver and gold. He's tried entertainment. He's tried women, sex. And what's the scripture say? Verse 10 of Ecclesiastes chapter 2. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I denied myself nothing, is what he says. I refused my heart no pleasure. Verse 11. And yet, big yet. And yet, when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was to be gained. And he gives two reasons why. He says, number one, because I'm just going to die. I'm just going to die, and that's going to be the end of it. And no matter what I've done, it's gone. And he says, and worse, I'm going to be forgotten. We ought to know that. I mean, come on, Solomon lived about 970-ish BC. How many great men from 1000 BC do you know? Do you know their lives? Do you know how they lived? There's no meaning in life. Everything I do, it's just wasted. So his conclusion, chapter 2, verse 17, powerful conclusion, and a lot of people arrive at this, so I hated life. Wow, what an honest verse. What an honest verse of Scripture. People talk about, well, I got money, but it doesn't really bless me, doesn't make me happy, or I know all this stuff, but I've just become cynical, or I've worked all this work, but I've just gotten tired and worn out. And it finally concludes, without God, trying to find meaning in life without God, you finally arrive at, so I hated life. What an honest verse, and so many, many people are at this point. You go to any street, look and stand on a street corner and watch the people walking by, and you see their faces, their empty faces, their drawn faces. Here he says, I hated life. And so in this place of hating life and looking for something else, he finds God. And God says that you're loved. And God promises you everlasting life in a wonderful place. And God promises you meaningful life with other people. And all of a sudden, in your relationship with God and in your relationship with those who love God, you find meaning in life. And all of a sudden, it doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're poor, whether you work a lot or don't work a lot, whether you have entertainment or don't have entertainment, because the meaning is in God. And so he concludes this powerful verse, verse 25, for without him, without God, who can eat or find enjoyment? And it's too bad that this is one of the verses in the Bible for which there are some textual variants. So for example, if you're reading the King James Version, it reads, who can eat or who can hasten hereunto more than I, which doesn't make any sense. And I would refer you to, if you're interested in the translational problems, you can look at the commentaries, Lang's commentary, Brown Driver Briggs, some of the others, that explain the correct meaning. Who can eat? Who can find enjoyment in life without God? You and I have to come to the point that we can simplify our lives. It isn't stuff that's going to make us happy. What's going to make us truly fulfilled? What's going to make us blessed in life? What's going to help us find great meaning in our lives is when we find and have a great relationship with God.